Hello friends, and welcome to The Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, it's been a while, and I'm sorry for that, but it's been a kooky, crazy summer, yeah? I finished one semester, I started classes at a different campus at my same university, and I just didn't have the space and the time to record any videos or the energy, because this summer here in Korea has been a real butt kicker, if you will, especially at the beginning of the summer. Beginning in June and then now into July. The first few weeks of real summer have been hot, humid, and a drain on my energy, as well as the requirements of going to a couple of places to work at the same time. So riding my bike to one campus, then riding my bike to the library to work there, and then riding home, and not having any long periods of time in any one place, at least not enough to record a video, has been challenging. And so I'm really sorry to have dropped the ball in this way. And just to let you know, by the time that this video goes up, I will have left. I'm going to the United States for about a month. And so I'm going to record as I can while I'm there. I'm not sure how or what I'm going to do, but this is going to be the last of the Lenormand series. Now, I had promised that I would do at least a month of readings with houses. And I'll talk about that in just a little bit. What I will do first is I want to thank you. I want to thank you for being here with me, for coming back, that I've been on hiatus for a couple of weeks. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for participating. Thank you for hitting the thumbs up button. Thank you for subscribing. All of those things that you do are a blessing for me and for our community. So thank you for doing those things and for commenting. All of those of you who do comment in the comment section, you are a wonderful blessing to all of us. I also want to tell you, it's dark here. Yeah? Like I said, my time has been scattered over the last month or so. And really, even getting this video done is in the area of catch as catch can. What do I mean? Well, I record these videos with natural sunlight, and because of having to work and do other things, this is the best I'm going to be able to do for lighting, and I have to do this video now because, like I said, I'm leaving in a day and a half. So this is what we are going to be able to do. I think you'll be able to see well enough. I'm having a little difficult time seeing because all of the light is on me and not so much on the cards in front of me. So bear with me, okay? Yes, what am I going to do? I told you I'm going to be reading with houses, right? So first, what I will do is I will show you the spread, and then we'll talk about that. You've seen this deck before. Just to let you know, you've seen this deck before if you followed along on this channel. It's a beautiful deck. I'll show you the spread, and I'll break that down to show you what it is you saw, and then we'll start reading the spread. Are you all ready, friends? Let's go. Here is this week's spread. So friends, do you recognize the deck? Yeah, it's a beautiful deck. I wish it were still available. But if you noticed, I have two of the same deck in play in this spread. Did you see that? One of them is a smaller version of the deck and one of them is a little bit larger, right? This is the Butterfly Lenormand by a wonderful, wonderful friend, Mendy, who had this available for a very short time. She made it herself, and then it became unavailable. So I'm very sorry for that. I'm praying that it will become available again someday in the future, but this is what we've got. And I chose these decks because I could use them in this way. Now, if you don't have these decks, and you probably don't, there are other ways of doing this. Doing what? You don't know what I did yet, do you? So what I did was I shuffled the larger deck, and I pulled I cut the deck and I pulled the 9 cards to create a 9-card spread, or a box spread, or a picture frame spread, or it's called many things. For me, it's the 9-card spread. I pulled those 9 cards and laid them down, and those are the houses. Then I pulled the smaller version of the same deck and shuffled that and cut that deck, and then laid the cards above those, on top of those, to be the actual cards of the spread. So we have the small cards on top. Those are the real cards that we're focusing on. The larger cards on the bottom, those are called houses. And if you know Lenormand, you already know what I mean. If you don't know Lenormand, let me tell you what I mean. So, in Lenormand, when we lay out a grand tableau, each one of the cards lands in a house, starting from number 1 with the rider down to 36 with the cross. And it depends on whether you're laying a 9x4 grand tableau, or a 6x8 tableau with 4 at the bottom, which is my preference. But still, you lay them all. When you lay the cards, you lay them in the houses that they would have been in. Now, one way for you to be able to recognize which card is in which house is to use 2 decks. There are some Lenormand spread cloths that have the houses already laid out for you, which is also a wonderful way to do that. I do not have those. When I lay with spread, you can also memorize them. You could remember them. That number 1 is the rider, it's here. Number 2 is the clover, and it's right next to it. You could memorize the order of the houses very easily. It's suggested to do that anyways. But having 2 decks or a spread is a very good crutch tool. Yeah? So that's how we do it when we lay a card on the house. What does that mean? The card in that house, the card meaning of the card is the same as always. Yeah, the fish are the fish, the tree is the tree, the clouds are the clouds. But when one of those cards is in the house of, for example, the rider, that meaning is modified. It behaves a little bit differently. The way I've heard it described is, when we are at work, we behave in one way. When we're in our bathroom at home, we behave in a different way. When we're at our mother's house or our father's house, we behave in yet another way. Yeah? So we're the same person, but our behavior patterns are a little bit different depending on where we are. So for example, the clouds in the house of the rider, which would be messages perhaps, or quick information, expectations maybe, so there would be confusion, which expected confusion maybe, or maybe quickly arriving confusion. Does that make sense? Or confusion that is brought in by another person. So that confusion, the card of the clouds, behaves a little bit differently because it's in the house of the rider. Whereas if it's in the house of the tree, which might be confusion of health confusion, or confusion about a family, or it could be a slow growing confusion because it's in the house of a tree. Does that make sense? If it does, thank God. If it does not, let me know in the comments below. I will try to explain that a little bit better. Yeah? So, like I said, I laid out the 9 cards. So another way to do this, another way to do this is not to lay out the grand tableau, but do a random selection of houses from one deck, and then lay another set of cards on top of those houses to be the actual spread. This is making sense, I hope, which is what I did. Now, I'm blessed to have 2 versions of the same deck, which is a wonderful tool to have. If you don't have that, there is a deck which is really good to use for houses, and that's called Under Roses. The Under Roses Lenormand, it's big-ish. So if you've got a small-ish Lenormand deck and that deck, you could do basically the same thing that I've done with this. I've also got 2 sizes of the Lenormand. I've got a big one and a little one, and I can do that with those 2. But they don't have to be all matchy-matchy. They don't have to be 2 of the same. Yeah, you can get the Lenormand deck and then a smaller Lenormand deck and do basically the same thing that I just did for us on your own. Yeah? So, like I said, we've got 2 versions of the butterfly Lenormand. And the wonderful thing about the butterfly Lenormand is we have very clear images on the cards. It's very difficult to mistake what the image on each card is. Directionality is pretty much the way I like it in this deck. We don't have playing card inserts, but the playing card associations are big enough, bold enough, and easy to see. And then we have a little addition of a butterfly. Yeah? The butterfly. There are 3 kinds of butterflies used in this deck. A white butterfly indicates a positive card. A black butterfly indicates a negative card. And then the multicolored butterfly, almost a rainbow, indicates a neutral card. Now, I read a little bit more nuanced version of that. Yeah, I have positive, neutral, negative, negative. That's how I read. But having those butterflies there, it's very helpful. It's a very helpful tool. And that's another reason that I love these 2 sizes of this deck, because of those butterflies. So, if you know me, you know that I like reading the picture frame spread, the 9-card spread, the box spread in several ways. Yeah? I will read the columns from left to right, the past, the present, the future. I will read the rows, top being what's on our minds, the middle being what we're experiencing in the world, and the bottom being what's going on below the surface. Yeah? And then we'll read the corners, and then we'll read the diamonds. And then we might even do some knighting. Maybe. Maybe not. We may have enough information here because we've also got houses. Now, before we actually dive into reading the spread, first, let me just show you the base of the houses so we can talk about that. And then I will show you the houses with the cards laid on top of them again, and then we'll start reading the spread for real. Okay? Does that make sense? So friends, let me show you those houses right now. Friends, you saw the houses were from left to right, top to bottom, the clouds, the fox, the woman, well actually it's called the other person in this deck, but it's the woman card, the tower, the rider, the crossroads, and then the whip, the sun, and the garden. Yes, those are the 9 houses that we have laid out for this spread. What does that mean? So, for me, and in doing my research, studying Lenormand, I've noticed that people read houses very differently. Some people read the houses directly In the same way that they would read the cards themselves. For example, some people would read the clouds as confusion, the house of the clouds as confusion, right? However, some people would read the house of the clouds differently. For example, one way of reading them is external forces. And so I'm going to read these. I'm going to play around with which direction I think these houses are speaking to us. So, clouds. What could clouds mean? Okay, so upper left-hand corner we had clouds, uncertainty, maybe external forces, confusion, stuff coming in from the outside, maybe. The fox, something is wrong, something is perhaps dangerous. It could also be indicating self-protection, according to some people. Yeah, the woman, or the other person card in this deck, would be a receptive house, a house of the intuition as well. Below, the tower. And remember, the tower is not the same as the tower in tarot, right? Completely different system, the tower. As a house, it could be institutions, but also social barriers for some people. So I'm not really sure which way that's going to go. The rider in the center is expectations. It could be a house of life or the future. It could also be a house of something that appears suddenly in our lives or in our experience. Yeah? Then beside it, we had the house of the crossroads, which could be choices, but it could also be development or advancement in our lives, which seems very different from the making a choice, which is the way that I would normally read the crossroads card, right? Development and advancement. Very interesting take on the house of crossroads, yes? Then below that we have the whip, which could be argumentative nature, repetitive actions, but for a house, it could also be an opposite force, or it could be karma, according to some people. We'll see where that goes. The sun card. As a card itself, it is my triple positive card, right? As a house, for some people, it's the house of clarity. It's the house of success and happiness. That kind of makes sense. Yeah? And then the garden card. As a house, social activity. Makes absolute sense, right? So, I haven't really landed on how we're going to read these houses yet. But it will be interesting. Now, I don't read houses with the same positivity, negativity. I don't look at the playing card associations when we're talking about houses. When we're talking about houses, we're just focusing on the house of the image. Yeah, without any exterior stuff of, again, like whether it's the king of spades or the king of hearts or the ace of spades or the queen of diamonds. Yeah, that's not going to play into the way we read the houses, at least at my level of reading, if that makes sense. It would be way too much for my brain to wrap itself around right now. Maybe in the future, who knows? So, yes, friends, let me show you the full spread once again. So you'll see the cards laid on top of their houses, and we're going to read it like we would a normal 9-card spread. Okay, friends, here's the spread once more. Friends, here we go. From left to right, top to bottom, we have in the house of the clouds, the moon. In the house of the fox, the coffin. In the house of the other person or the woman, we have the anchor. That's a pretty good card. In the house of the tower, we had the mountains. That sounds a little bit heavy, right? In the house of the rider, we have the tree, which seemed kind of interesting contrast to me. In the house of the crossroads, we have the clover. That's a positive card. Then below, from left to right, in the house of the whip, we have the ship. In the house of the sun, we have the crossroads, which is interesting, right? Because we had the house of the crossroads, but here we have crossroads in the house of the sun. So there might be some connection there. And then in the house of the garden, we have the stars. Now, generally, you know that I like to see how positive or negative a spread like this is, 3-card, 5-card, 7-card, or 9-card spreads. I will find out how positive or negative they are, and I might add up the numbers to find out what the overriding theme of the spread might be. So first, let's look at positivity and negativity. Yes? So we start off with the moon being positive neutral, the coffin being negative neutral. They knock each other off. Yeah? The anchor is positive neutral. The mountain is negative. Okay, negative, that's one negative. The tree is positive neutral. The clover is positive, which knocks off that negative mountain, right? The ship is positive neutral. The crossroads are neutral. And then the stars are positive. So we've got a fairly positive spread, yeah? What remains after balancing everything out, we had one positive with the star. We have 3 positive neutrals. Pretty positive. And still, we might come up with a little bit of a negative feel to this spread. Why? Because if we add up the playing card inserts for this entire spread, which is something I also like to do, yeah? So 8 plus 9 plus 9 plus 8 plus 7 plus 8 plus 10 plus the queen plus the stars all add up to, when reduced, 12. And I'm not going to go through the math here, but it adds up to 12. I'm sorry, it adds up and then reduces to 12. Which means what? It's the birds. Yeah, what are birds? Well, the birds are a negative neutral card, right? They are a card for communication. What do birds do? Yeah, they chirp. We're thinking of not large birds like raptors and eagles and ravens even, that give long cries, but rather the chirpy kind of birds, right? So when we think of the birds in Lenormand, we think of chirpy, busy, nervous birds. So that there's that quality of communication, a little bit of nervousness, maybe a little bit of anxiety to the birds, maybe noise, maybe gossip. Yeah. What else? Yeah, those are all things. Oh, sometimes it could be a couple. So this could be a reading about a couple. If that means anything to you, run with that. But there's a nervousness, I think, about this spread. It's generally positive, but there's an overlying nervousness to this. Like things are not as settled or comfortable or easy as they might possibly look. Yeah? Now, with a 9-card spread, you know that I like to look at the center card first. That's the significator. I did not choose the significator in advance. It's possible. I did not do that, but it's possible. You could shuffle your cards and decide that, for example, I want to read about work, and so I will choose the anchor card, and you shuffle your cards, and then you look through your cards, and you find the anchor, and then the first 4 cards before it, and the next 4 cards after that are laid out into the 9-card spread. That works perfectly well. I've done that, and it works very nicely. I did not do that. I let these cards give us what the significator card will be. And so we got the tree in the house of the writer. So what does that mean? The central idea of this spread is what? The tree. Something with roots, something that's grounded, something that is healthy. Some people read the tree as unhealthy. I do not. Just saying. Yeah. The tree for me is healthy. It's alive. It is enduring, it grows slowly, it provides shade, it provides oxygen and diversity to the microbiome. It does a lot of work. Trees on this planet do a lot of heavy lifting for the vitality of the planet. So for me, the tree is what? It's life, it's our roots, it's our traditions. It could be ancestry. We think of the roots going down into the ground. Yeah, our roots as humans, our ancestors. It could be that. It could be a deep-rooted issue, but I don't see a deep-rooted issue in this spread. It could be the outdoors. It could be the environment, which is something that I've been thinking about a lot recently, but maybe not. There are also levels, right? There's the body, mind, spirit level of the tree, the body, the roots, the mind, maybe the trunk and the branches and leaves being spirit, maybe. But for me, what I think is what is interesting is that we've got something that has started small and is growing slowly. But when that's in the house of the writer, what does that mean? The writer is something quick. A writer brings messages. It also brings, according to some people, expectations, our life and our future. Okay, I just got it. Ding, 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 ding. The lights just flashed, the bell just sounded, and I think I got it. So the central card seems to me to be that this is a spread about our life and our growing future. The tree, it's the growth, the slow, steady growth of our lives into the future. That makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah? Something that grows, it's growing, it's in the house of our lives, and it's the house of our future, and maybe our expectations, but I think it's our lives, which are now small, are growing larger slowly and steadily. So this seems to be a pretty, for what I was saying is being nervous and a little bit anxious, there's also a sense of stable expansion to this spread. But maybe that means that we're not trusting that. Maybe this spread is asking us to reflect on how stable our lives actually are. How much we grow and we expand, recognizing that life is also cycles, right? Even a tree, think of a deciduous tree, yeah? A tree that will grow and then in winter it will shed its leaves. But still, even when it's shed its leaves, even when things have fallen and frozen, it's still bigger than it was last year. And then comes spring and then it'll start growing a little bit more. And then it'll shed leaves, but still it's bigger than it was the year before, right? So there are cycles in our lives of growth and of expansion and a little bit of retraction, and then more expansion and then a little bit of retraction, sorry. And that's how our lives unfold and how our future can unfold. And so we want to pay attention to how much anxiety we're giving to this present moment, how much nervousness we're giving to this present moment, distracting us from the steady growth of our lives. Maybe that's what this spread is starting to tell us. Let's see. So the card that directly, and most directly, I should say, influences the tree card is the moon card, up in the upper left-hand corner. Yes? And that's in the house of the clouds. So, what is the moon? The moon, it's our intuition. It's our emotions. It's our dream life on one hand. Yeah? The moon card is also a card for reputation and recognition, rising success. For me, it's also a heart business card. Yeah, the moon is the large satellite that revolves around the Earth, right? And it changes. So it has cycles, and it's connected with water. And for all those reasons, we have the associations with intuition and emotion, right? And dream life. But because the moon also rises and it waxes and wanes, there's that waxing feeling. So that's the recognition, reputation, rising success. So it could be that our growth is being recognized by other people. But remember, the moon is in the house of the clouds, right? So we are maybe, even though we are, and maybe that's why we, okay, so many thoughts. Let's put them in order, yeah? The moon is in the house of the clouds. The clouds give it uncertainty, and there are external forces, right? So it could be that our recognition and our reputation, that our lives expanding and growing with the tree, our expanding recognition and reputation, people are noticing that there's uncertainty about that because it's in the house of the clouds. Right? And because there's uncertainty about recognition of our expansion and our growth and our expansion and growth, yeah? Because there's uncertainty about that, it could be causing that anxiety or nervousness that was indicated by the birds card, which we got when we totaled up all of the playing cards in the Lenormand top spread. Right? I didn't, now just so you know, I think I said this, but I may not have. I did not count any of the playing cards in the houses. I'm just counting the primary spread on top of the houses. Okay? So remember, that gave us the birds, which is nervousness, a little bit of anxiety. Maybe it's because of that uncertainty of the recognition and success that we could be feeling around our growth with the tree. Does that make sense? And so, let's look at our past, present, and futures. Yeah? Starting with the past, what do we have? We've got the moon in the moon in the clouds, appropriate place for it, and giving it some uncertainty, right? The moon is covered by the clouds, by that uncertainty. The mountain in the tower house and the ship in the whip. That's fun, right? So, in the past, we've had some uncertainty and things that have been affecting our success, perhaps. Or if you have a heart business, there could have been external forces or some uncertainty around your heart business as well. I'm pretending like there's a beard here, but there's no beard here, is there? And right below that is the mountain. Yeah? So the mountain is what? It's an obstacle. It stands in the way. If we think of the past, before there were airplanes and before there were even trains, when this deck was produced, trains were not the easy and accessible transportation that we have now. Now, there might have been rudimentary trains at the time, but they didn't connect all of the United States and all of Europe. You know what I'm saying? Yeah? So the way for people to travel long distances was either by ship or by horse or by carriage. And a mountain, well, of course, a mountain stands in the way of a ship, but horses and carriages and other forms of land transportation, a mountain is a big obstacle. So that's what the mountain is for us. Here in this deck, it's an obstacle. It blocks our passage. It's a challenge. It's not unsurmountable, but it is a challenge. It could also be spiritual heights. But being in the house of the tower, yeah, this obstacle, this thing that stands in the way, the tower, it could be institutional, it could be a social barrier. So, yes, our uncertainty about our success and our reputation is through the obstacles that have come to us through social barriers. There have been people and discussion and social interactions that have been, whether we know it or not, standing in our way. Perhaps. Which makes sense because right below that, we've got the ship. And a ship running into a mountain is a bad thing, right? A ship is a long journey, something that it's travel. It's also commerce, the way people got goods from one place to another before trains, before planes, before automobiles, was either on land with a cart or on ship through oceans or down rivers. Right? So there's that idea of commerce and trade associated with the ship as well. Could also be our motor vehicle being a modern card, but still, I think what we're talking about here, rather than an actual machine, it's that long trip, a long journey. And that long journey is in the house of the whip, which is what? It's opposing forces, right? Like I said, could be karmatic, karma. But I think what we see is this long journey of opposing forces, that there have been opposing forces to us, indicated by the mountain in the tower, also indicated by the ship in the whip. Yeah, it's been a long journey of opposing forces for us in the past, which may have given us a little bit of uncertainty and nervousness and anxiety, again indicated by the birds card, which we've already talked about, right? So we've left that behind. In the present, what do we have? We start off at the top with the coffin in the house of the fox. What is that? The coffin. It's an ending, right? It's an ending. It's finishing things. Coffin I like to read directionally, but I read the coffin directionally left to right, so hopefully I'll remember to bring that back up when we look at the rows. Yeah? So the coffin is in the house of the fox. It's what? The house is danger, but perhaps also self-protection. So it may be because of this uncertainty in the past, we have shut some stuff down, coffin, for self-protection. The house of the fox, yeah? Maybe the best thing that we could have thought to do at this time was to shut things down. And in my case, it could have been like this pause I have taken with the YouTube channel, maybe, for example, just as an example, yeah? I'm not saying that this whole spread is about me with this YouTube channel, but if I were reading this for me, the coffin in the fox house would be asking me to reflect on, why did I stop? Was I doing it for self-protection? Was I doing it because I was feeling some danger? What was it that stopped me? I've been doing this channel. I've been uploading videos and creating videos for this channel for several years, pretty much without pause. And then suddenly I stopped. Why? What was perhaps the self-protecting instinct that has caused me to do that? Right below that, we had, again, the tree and the rider, which is maybe we stop because we know that this stop is the chance for a new growth. That might take time. But maybe we're expecting our life and our future, the house of the rider. And remember, that's not the main point. The main point is the tree, that that something will grow. And we expect that. And this is our life in future growth. And so we stopped for protection because we are expecting this thing to grow more. And maybe in a different way. Which seems probable because below that card we have the card of choices. We have the card of the crossroads, right? Crossroads. So, and it's in the present, and the crossroads is the card of making choices now. Not waiting, not pondering, not contemplating, but the time to make the decision is now. That's what the crossroads tells us. And that is in the house of the sun. Yeah? And the house of the sun is clarity, success, happiness. So, now we're called to make the decision a clear, successful, happy decision to allow the tree to grow in the house of the rider, life, future, because we've stopped something for our self-preservation, for our self-protection, for something to keep ourselves sane and whole. We have stopped something, but now it's time to make a decision, a path. And we will read this path directionally when we get to reading the rose. But that kind of makes sense, doesn't it? How we went from the past of uncertainty and high obstacles being brought from our social interactions, perhaps, and maybe opposing forces that have been drawn out. Here we're in the middle of having chosen to stop for things to grow, but we need to make the decision, right? A positive, happy, successful decision. And then in the future, what do we get? We get the anchor in the woman card. Yeah? The anchor. The card of work, stability, and routines. That's what anchors us, what keeps us secure and safe so that we don't drift off. Right? The anchor. Now, it could also be a heavy burden, but I don't see heavy burden here in this spread, for this card, in this position. So our stability, our work, our routines are in the house of the woman, which are receptive. So in the future, we will receive our routines, and our stability will be receptive and intuitive. Which for me might be pointing towards a little bit more work in Tarot, maybe, I don't know. A little bit more divinatory work, I don't know. But yeah, our futures. We start off with a very stable card. It's in the house. It's not something we need to go out and get. It's something that we have the potential to receive because it's in the house of the woman. And it might be something that we will be able to interact with intuitively. And that moves us into the card of luck, this wonderful clover card, yeah? Small luck, happiness, hope, optimism, yeah, all those things are associated with the clover. Money is associated with the clover as well, which is nice, being underneath the card of work and our stability. It's in the house of the crossroads, yeah? Which may mean that we are being called to choose our fortune, but like I said, some people read the crossroads as being development or advance. So maybe our luck, our money, our happiness will develop in our workspace with the anchor, within our stability, will develop in that space, our luck and fortune and money will develop. We might get some good omens as well. And they will develop, and they will be omens and and blessings of advancement as well. Which leads us into the stars, right? The stars in the house of the garden. The stars, what are they? They're good fortune. They are our dreams coming true. They're our destiny and our guidance. Yeah, so our luck with the clover and our good fortune and maybe some omens will give us some good fortune and some guidance and our dreams coming true in the future. Interestingly, in the house of social activity. So, where our social activity, our external forces and the uncertainty that was clouding our rise in the past, now maybe our social activity will be a source of good fortune. Now, our good fortune will be social, will be active. Our guidance will be in connection with other people. Our destiny will be in connection with other people. Also, our psycho-spirituality might be in connection with other people as well in the future. Does that make sense? So we've got a good progression, but it is understandable to me now why the birds is an overarching theme for this spread, because there was a hard past and the present. We feel like things are getting better, but we don't know yet because the better stuff is coming in the future. It's not here now, and we're being called to make a choice now. It's a good choice. It's a positive choice with the crossroads. It's a choice of clarity and success, but the results, we have not experienced the results yet, and so there's still some anxiety, there's still some nervousness around this, right? Now let's look at the rows. What do we have for the rows? What's on our minds? Now, on our minds, from left to right, we have the moon, the coffin, and the anchor in the houses of the clouds, the fox, and the woman. So, here I think we're going to be talking about the moon in its more emotional, intuitive aspect because of the flow of this row. So I think in our headspace, on our minds, in our connection even with the divine, with spirit, because it's in the house of the clouds still, there's been uncertainty about our intuition and our emotions. We're not really sure how we've been feeling. We think about it, but there's uncertainty and there's a lack of clarity there, which has caused us to shut down, right? Maybe for self-preservation, or maybe because we've sensed some danger, we've maybe shut down. Coffin in the fox house, right? Coffin in the house of the fox. And then with the woman, I'm sorry, not with our anchor in the woman, yeah? That's our stability in our intuitive stability. Our stability, which is in the realm of our intuition. And the coffin in the house of the fox makes me feel like in our mind space, we have shut down our, to some extent, at least, our connection with intuition and our emotions. Doesn't mean we haven't been feeling them, but we've shut our minds off from access to that space because we have been feeling uncertain and unstable. Does that make sense? Why? Well, what's going on in our physical experience of the world? Now, what's happening around us? How are our lives going in the material world? Well, we start off with the mountain in the house of the tower, right? So we've got this high obstacle. And the highness of the mountain is exaggerated by being in the tower. Now, it could have been in the house of the mountain, which would have really exaggerated it. But we've got our obstacles, our challenges being high. Maybe institutional, maybe social. And in the real world, those obstacles may have felt like they were growing. The tree. Slowly and inexorably, they seem to have been growing. And that's been our experience of the path of our lives. Moving forward, is that the obstacles seem to be getting bigger and bigger. Yeah? But we feel that there is some small luck developing, some happiness developing within that, which might start to change our experience of the world. Yeah? Maybe and as we are moving through the world, our sensing of blessings, of synchronicities, of happiness, of small luck might be developing. Clover in the house of the crossroads of development and advancement, right? So, though in our experience of the world has been obstacles, challenges growing slowly and steadily, and our expectation that they will continue growing, that's been offset by our, like, noticing glitter lying around. If you don't really focus on it, you don't really look at it, or you don't really see it, unless there's a hell of a lot of it. But there might be glitter residue in the same sense that there might be small bits of luck residue lying about that are starting to catch our eye, that are starting to be noticeable to us. Which is a good thing. And then below the surface, what do we have? Well, we're starting off with the ship in the house of the whip, the ship whip. And we know that we're on a journey, right? We know that unconsciously in the subterranean realm, we are on a journey of karma and opposing forces. So sometimes things are light and sometimes things are dark. And even the most enlightened person rests as much as possible in that center point between the light and the dark, the yin and the yang, the and the yang in Korean. Yeah? The duality doesn't disappear. It's just that we see it all. It's just that. That's a big thing. Now, we see it all. And we don't have to get sucked into either side, right? So underneath the surface, below our perception, or maybe in our unconscious, or bubbling up from beneath the surface of the water as an image, we've got the knowledge that things, that we're on a long journey, that things sometimes go up and sometimes go down. Right? It's the journey of karma. It's the journey of our lives, of opposing forces. Which leads us to our ability to choose success and choose happiness with the crossroads in the sun card, in the sun house, right? We're able to choose, make decisions, choose happiness, choose success. That is a choice that we can make. Irrespective of the circumstances that we're experiencing in the world around us, we can choose the knowledge of success, that we are successful. Does that make sense? Whether you win the lottery or not, whether you get the promotion or not, whether you're successful at doing the thing you think you want to do or not, we can still choose success. We can still choose to see ourselves as successful beings in this three-dimensional universe. Yeah? And that leads us to what? To good fortune in the house of our social activity, our interaction with other people. What else can the garden be? The garden can be a place, a place of interactions, a place of being with other people, with other creatures, with not nature, because nature would be more the tree. The garden is something that is designed by human beings, the garden, right? This isn't the card of the Garden of Eden that is nature, but the garden of the 18th century estate, or the public garden of the 18th century, right? With bushes that are groomed and hedged, and bushes that are groomed, and spaces that are made available for people to interact. Now that's the garden card in the Lenormand deck. So that is that space for social activity. It could be at work. It could be in our sphere of friends and family. But beneath the surface, we're moving in the direction of more interaction, successful interaction, and interaction that of our destiny, of our guidance, and our movement in the direction of our intentional lives. Yeah? And I think we're going to come back to this sun and garden card again later on in the video. But for now, I'd like to show you this spread once more. And I'd like us to read the corners and the diamond around the central tree in the House of the Rider card and see what information that can give us. Are you all ready for that, friends? Here we go. Here's the spread once more. So friends, let's start off with the corners, yeah? And the corners we have, in the upper left-hand corner, we had the clouds, and then the lower right, we have the garden. I'm sorry, not the cloud. I'm looking at houses, not the cards. In the upper left-hand corner, we had the moon, and in the lower right-hand corner, we have the stars. The moon and the stars. How nice, how celestial, yeah? So, we're moving from our intuitive and emotional uncertainty into social good fortune, right? Interacting with other people and getting our guidance to how to navigate our interactions with other people. So whereas our growth, okay, so that's moving through the tree in the house of the writer, right? So our growth is going to be from this feeling of confusion to good fortune and guidance as we interact with other people. That's a wonderful progression, I think. And then the other corners, we had the anchor in the house of the woman and the ship in the house of the whip. So, what does that mean? Our work and stability are growing, right? But it's not an active growth. It's not an active growth, it's a receptive growth. Yeah? There's a receptive nature to the work that we're doing and our stability, which could be good. It doesn't mean, it means that we're not scrambling for that. We don't have to actively try and create our stability here. We can receive that, right? And as it moves through the tree, that stability and our work and our routines grow naturally, slowly and steadily through a long journey. But that long journey is going to be a journey of maybe some opposing forces, yeah? Sometimes it grows, sometimes it retracts, and then it grows a little bit more, and then it retracts, and then it grows a little bit more, and then it retracts. Because it's in the house of the whip with opposing forces, right? So there's this long journey of opposing forces and it depends on what we're going to give our attention to. Are we going to catastrophize every moment of lack of expansion, or are we going to allow ourselves to settle into the temporary contraction before we expand again? Does that make sense? So what's going on with the diamond? Well, okay, so on one side of the diamond, from the center left up to the top center, yeah, so we've got the mountain and the coffin. So what does that mean? It means that our obstacles, our high obstacles, our challenges, maybe social challenges, are ending with the coffin. The coffin is in the house of the fox, so they're ending because they're ending with the reason of self-preservation, perhaps. But that seems like a good thing to me. Doesn't it sound like a good thing to you to have those obstacles ending? And then, okay, so then we've got, remember I said the crossroads are doubled up. One is a card on top and one is a house. Well, here they are connected. So in the bottom center, going to the center right of the diamond, we had the sun and the crossroads. The sun and the crossroads. That's one of the sides of the diamond. And so, what does that mean? Not the sun, I'm sorry. The crossroads and the clover, I'm reading the houses, not the cards. Okay, so the crossroads and the clover are connected because of that being on that arm of the diamond. But they're also connected because we've got the crossroads on the top and the clover is in the house of the crossroads. So, what does that mean? Our choices, our decisions of the paths we are going to tread, the decisions of the path we're going to go down. Good decision, successful decision, happiness decision, crossroads in the house of the sun, moves us to luck, happiness, hope, optimism, synchronicities, good omens, in the house of development, advancement of the crossroads. Right? So our choices now, good choices, clear choices, happy choices, lead us to good luck, happiness, optimism, maybe some money, in the house of advancement and development. What could be better than that, right? So when we look at the diamond, we've got obstacles ending, and we've got our choices, happy choices, leading to happiness, luck, maybe some money, maybe some good synchronicities, maybe hope and optimism. Does that make sense? And this spread is interesting because we're moving in the territory of our feeling nervous and anxious because things have been hard in the past. And while we feel and sense that things are going to get better, they haven't gotten better yet. But we're making decisions. And our decisions are being influenced by and are co-creative. Remember, we live the intentional life. An intentional life is a co-creative life. We are eternal beings having these human experiences. And everything from the bodies that we are co-creating to the material things and the experiences that we are manifesting in our life experience, all of those things are co-creation. And so the feeling of good, happy choices that we are making now lead us to social good fortune, social blessings, good outcomes in our interaction with other people, because nothing we do is a solo act. Whether you think you are totally alone in the universe, you are a hermit inside of a closet, inside of an apartment, inside of a big unfriendly city. No matter how alone we feel, we are never alone. No matter how successful we feel we are, we never do it alone either. We are in a co-creative universe and a living, co-creating, creative lives. So, this crossroads in the house of the sun are choices, are happy choices, leading us to good fortune with the stars, destiny, guidance with the stars in a house of the garden and social activity makes absolute sense, because we cannot get our good fortune, our guidance, our revelation of destiny in a vacuum. It all is revealed in a co-creative interaction. And that could be with actual other people. It could be with spirit. It could be with the divine. It could be with all of that, and probably is going to be with all of that together. With all of those multiply manifesting beings in this three-dimensional space we call a universe. Our path forward is going to be co-creative. Just as our obstacles in the past were co-creative as well. But remember, the tree is the center. And the tree expands and contracts a little bit, and expands and contracts a little bit. And so we've been on a long journey of contraction, I believe. And now it's time for another cycle of expansion. But we don't want to get caught up in expansion good, contraction bad, right? Expansion good, contraction good. The obstacles that we've experienced in the past have been for our benefit. We have grown because of that. We've become stronger because of that. And the choices that we are going to make now are going to be better choices because of that. And that's living an intentional life. Recognizing that is living an intentional life. Do you agree? If you do, let me know in the comments below. If you do not, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. What do you think? What does this mean to you? I know that this was a one-time attempt at doing this kind of a reading, and it would have been beneficial for me to be able to do this kind of reading a few times more so that my presentation of this kind of spread with houses and cards might have been more clear in the future. But if you want me to do that for you, you can order a reading from me. Just let me know. I'll do a reading for you, and I'll probably do it better. Yeah? So friends, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining me. In just a moment, the QR code and web address for my online tarot shop will appear before you. Order a reading from me if you like. Order a reading for yourself, for a friend, for a family member. Your choice. And now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.